Hey, welcome to Loose Change with curbside service now available. Do you have that? No? Oh, it sounds good. Hey, I'm Jim Evans. Thanks for joining us. And what sounds even better is the show we have for you. So you want to stay right where you're at. Very special guests are standing by. But first, what's been going on? Here we are right in the wheelhouse of autumn. Great time in Northeast Ohio with the weather we have. We were really fortunate here lately for sure. And I really enjoy, all the colors and decorations and the pumpkins. And speaking of that, there's a guy, Greg, I don't know if you heard about this, a guy here locally who built this huge pumpkin catapult machine, just for fun, for amusement purposes only. And I guess he's got a lot of land and it's open to the public, and they come out and take a look at it and give it a try. And I thought, heck, why not me? And here's how I did. They didn't tell me I wasn't supposed to get in the catapult. So, come on. But I was fortunate I landed on my head. The same thing happened at Canfield Fair, didn't it? I have a feeling we'll maybe utilize that clip again at some time, perhaps. Greg, I'm at home watching TV one day recently, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I got sick. I got lightheaded and dizzy, which is normal for me, but even more so. My stomach was nauseous. I was achy and real anxious, so I thought I better get checked. I went to Rapid Care, and they did some tests, and the doctor came in. I said, what do you think, Doc, the flu or otherwise? He said, no, you've been watching too many political commercials. That's it. That made perfect sense. We can't get through this, and this can't end fast enough, can it? Gee whiz, it's worse than ever. And I was thinking about the commercials that I chuckle at about like local and more so state issues. You know how they play with the wording? If you're not educated on it, you could think you're voting for something when you're actually voting against it. Like, it's a clear choice. Vote no on issue yes. So, this is what he said to do. There's a commercial out right now with Marie Osmond. I don't know if you guys have seen this, and I don't know what she's selling, but she looks fantastic. Greg, have you seen this? She looks terrific, and she's in her mid-60s. I think she's finally reached the point where she's actually prettier than her brother Donnie. I think she's at that point. Greg, we were talking about this. You know I'm still looking for a car, and been looking out of the area because I'm looking for something really specific. And I found this one website, this place, the dealer, and I explained to the salesperson, kind of what I wanted, and he said, all right, I'll get back to you. The very next day, he did. He said, this might be it. And he sent me a picture. Here it is. I told him I wanted something more like a hot rod. Throw in some extra mustard and relish, and we might have something here. Greg, you have to have one of those in your fleet, don't you? You have how much, 40, 60 cars and vehicles in your fleet? I can see you oozing on down the line, a little lean. Not long ago, too, I was out of town having dinner at a restaurant in Fairfax City outside of D.C. And, well, it wasn't actually dinner, but the restaurant was good, and the food was pretty good, but the service was otherworldly. And I have video of that, too. Check it out.
Right up. It's sunny.
Okay. So that might be.
What time do you get off?
It's coming, folks. Actually, it's already here, as you just saw. So, this is what we're going to be dealing with. I felt bad, though. I wanted to leave him a tip, but I didn't have any Bitcoin. So, what was I going to do? Maybe next time. Hey, hang around. We're going to take a break, and then Champ Summers joins us next here on Loose Change. Be right back.
Supercharge your internet. Only Zoom Extreme from Armstrong combines unlimited data with whole home Wi-Fi at the fastest speeds possible. Zoom Extreme from Armstrong.
Welcome back. I'm Jim Evans, and I have the great privilege to be joined by a familiar guy here, one of my old partners in solving radio crime, none other than Champ Summers. Good to see you, buddy.
Good to see you. How you been?
Thanks for
You look
coming
great.
in. You as
I like
well.
that
You as
outfit.
well.
Beautiful.
You're not
Well, I can't compete
too
with you.
shabby here
Yeah.
too, as well. Now, you may know Champ, obviously, from his work in sports here locally. We did a show together on 570 WKBN with Danny Liebert, and now you have a new show. But first, he's also, of course, the former Mahoning County Clerk of Courts, now retired. How's that going?
Great. But Champ Summers is more exciting than Tony Vivo
Well,
is.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Somewhat might beg to differ, but
Yeah.
you've been enjoying your time
Oh,
off now?
unbelievable. It's, I had 41 years in at the
Yeah.
office, and all I do is basically cut grass, golf, and watch sports.
There he is.
The life of leisure, right?
The life of Riley right
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
But just reflecting back, what are some of the things, the positive things that stick out in your mind that you achieved in all that time?
Well, I think in politics, especially, running a good office, honest politician with integrity, but my staff is all about my staff. I mean, I had a wonderful staff for years and years, and I delegated a lot of duties. I had great supervisors, and it was just very proud of what the office was accomplished over those years, and I was able to get out pretty much unscathed in politics.
Left it in pretty good shape.
Thank you.
On your way out.
Thank
so.
you. Thank you.
You're also now back in broadcasting.
Right.
And tell us about that. You got a show going on this football season.
Yeah, Bill Kelly, who used to be at Clear Channel,
Yes.
he called me one day and says, "Hey, we'd like to do a high school football show." And I said, "Okay, I'm okay with it." I says, "But we're going to get I wanted to have a co-host."
Sure.
So he brought the name up Ron Potesta, and I says, "Oh, I'll do it with Ron Potesta. I've worked for Ron before,
Yeah, we've had him on the
professional."
show here.
Right. So we got together and decided to do a show. We actually tape it on Tuesdays. It's a 2-hour show, and then it runs on Thursday nights on Sports Radio 1240 WBBW. And it goes for 2 hours, and we have coaches, we have a celebrity on, and we just go through a lot of the stuff. I think what's different between now and in the past is we use a lot of analytics when we do our broadcasting. I'm very into the Joe Idol sites and Drew Pastor. It's pretty amazing what they can do. Yeah.
We use analytics on this show too, right?
Yeah.
You and I have talked about this, and of course, here we are. As we tape this show, we're moving into week 11, the first week of the playoffs. We talked about this a lot before, and how Ohio, in all likelihood, has the best system in determining, who makes the playoff and how they play it out.
Yes, absolutely. And one thing for sure, just basic, when you win a game, you get points. When you lose a game, you get nothing. And the margin of victory doesn't mean anything. So that's pretty, and they divide it pretty much into level 1 and level 2 points. When you beat a team, you get level 1 points. It's based on the division. For example, Division 1 would be 6.5. Division 2 would be 6, and so on. It goes all the way down to Division 7. And then when you beat that team, when that team beats somebody, you get their level 1 points that go into your level 2 points. So it's very simple in terms of that.
He says it's simple.
Yeah. But
For you. Yeah.
Right, but I think that one thing you have to remember is there's called a level 2 divisor, which gets confusing.
A little more complicated.
Right, and the reason why they have the level 2 divisor is because if you only play 9 games, okay, you
Some
can't
teams do, yeah.
Right, you can't accumulate as many points if you play 10 games.
Right.
So they have this thing called the level 2 divisor. And if you play 10 games and all your opponents play 10 games, that's 10 times 10 is 100. So that's your level 2 divisor, 100. But there's exceptions to the rule, and I brought some examples here. Well, for example, Austintown Fitch was 7-3, and all 10 of their opponents played 10 games. So their level 2 divisor was 100. Right. Very simple. Borden was 6-4, but 2 of their opponents, Cheney and Canfield, only played 9 games.
Right.
Now, if you only play 9 games, you deduct 10 from 100 because you're losing 10 opponents.
Correct.
If your opponents only play 9 games, then you deduct it by 1. So that's why Boardman's divisor was 98. Harding was 7-3, and they played 10 games, but they had one team on their schedule, Massillon. Even though they had an 8-2 record, they played a team called the NFL out of London.
Right.
It didn't count, so they only played 9, so they went from 100 to 99. And Cheney is a great example because they only played 9 games, so automatically they're down from 100 to 90, but they had 4 opponents that only had 9 games. So deduct 4 more from that, so their divisor was 86. Now, a good example in terms of figuring out the total points, Champion, which finished 1-9, they beat Newton Falls, who finished 0-10. Newton Falls was Division 6, so their rating was 4.0 for Division 6. So Champion's level 1 points was 4.0, but their level 2 points was 0, because when you beat a team, you get their entire level 1 points go into your level 2 points. And you add those up, and that's you get it fine. Now, I can go further because level 3 is tiebreakers, because they do have tiebreakers, but I'm not going to go into that. It takes about 45 minutes to explain that. But that's basically.
You guys have all that. You're going to be quizzed on this.
Yeah, I gave you a little cheat sheet too to follow along. Yeah, but that's the way it works, and that's a great system. A lot of states have copied that system, and thank God we have like Joe Idle's site. We also have this Drew Pastor that does a lot of analytics and predicts stuff. It's just a wonderful thing, and if you're really into that, maybe being like a nerdy type guy like I am, you could look at that site for hours upon hours, and there's a lot of good information there.
Of course, Cheney, you pointed them out, 3 and 6. They're in postseason.
Yeah.
The number 16 slot, we'll give a plug. You're going to hear that game as they match up with Ursuline. That's going to be on 13-9 of the Gambler, myself and Bob Cavalier. But the expanded field of 16 really has opened the door for a lot of teams in Cheney's.
Right.
area.
The only negative part is only 71 Division I schools.
Yeah.
So
Right,
obviously you're going to have teams that win 1 or 2 games, but all the rest of them have over 100. And it makes the regular season, like the last couple of weeks, I mean, you're battling in the 13th, 14th, 15th seed. Those games mean nothing. If under the old system where they had 8, those games really didn't mean anything. So it's more playoffs, and any sport that has more playoffs, it's more exciting, and it adds to the regular season, in my opinion.
He is the record keeper. Can we see this here? Look, this is the record.
No one has this.
Keeper Bible here.
Yeah, no one has this.
This looks like the Old Testament.
Yeah, well, I've got duct tape on it. But what this is every Ohio high school football team versus our Valley in playoffs. No one has this information. I've been keeping track of this for 25 years.
Yes, I know.
So, for example, I could open this up. I see the Lebanon Blue Devils. Their playoff history against our area, they played in 1980, played Division II Mooney. They lost 50-0. But I have that for every single team. Like Kirtland. Kirtland is 16-3 in our area, against our area in the playoffs. And they've just been dominant, and they're still dominant as we speak today. But yeah, this is my Bible, and I have to guard this thing.
I would think.
I have to lock it up every night. And besides my baby grand piano, this is probably the most valuable thing I own.
And your wife, Beth, she's okay with this.
Yeah, well, I don't even
She had no choice.
I don't even give her the combination of the safe on this. But yeah, this is my Bible, and no one else has this information. So
No, they don't.
I'm proud to share this to you, but you can't have it.
Well, I was going to ask you after the season, I need to elevate my Christmas tree a little bit, so will I be able to borrow that? And
I got to upgrade
don't
my
understand.
equipment here, yeah. And I got to upgrade my equipment. But if you want to borrow, it's like a library card. I got a little card and you're going to sign. And if it's overdue, it's like $100 a day. So,
okay. Well,
yeah, so you better not.
That's not in my budget.
Yeah, right.
But we had talked about this as well. For the longest time, it was 8 teams each region. And then they announced they were going to go to 12, but then COVID
Yes.
hit. And they let everybody in, and
Right.
they came back and then said, we're going to go to 16. What are your thoughts on
Well,
that?
in
'Cause
COVID,
there's been arguments on both sides.
right, the 2020 season, we had 40 teams. Everyone made the playoffs. There's about 5 teams that chose not to be in the playoffs.
Correct.
And they figured, well, if we can have everybody in, let's go to 16. And like I said, the only negative part about it is the Division I. There's only 71. So in Region 1, I think there's 17 teams. There's 18 teams in maybe Region 2. So that's the problem. But otherwise, I think it's great. It gives these guys a chance to get another week of practice. And also, and the first 2 rounds, by the way, are in home sites. So if you're a top 8 seed, you're guaranteed at least 1 home game. If you're top 4, you're guaranteed 2.
Right.
So it's just more fans, and I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, I think, and again, I understand arguments on both sides. A lot of coaches weren't too happy with it initially anyway, but you could have a team that maybe has injuries early on or just a slow start. They pick up traction, midway through, and then the door opens and they had to get a chance to compete and maybe do something.
Right now, since this is to be the 4th year we've gone to 16 in each region, we haven't had a double-digit seed win yet. Although Springfield, the Division I Springfield, as a 12th seed, went all the way to the finals last year and lost to St. Ed's. So until we get maybe a double-digit seed, now we've had a lot of 8 seeds win when they had just 1 through 8 make the playoffs. But until we get a double-digit seeds, you're going to have a lot of people complaining. But that's going to happen one of these days.
Done in our area has done well against, or vice versa. We know that MAC conference.
Yeah,
so
well, it's ironic because the MAC conference, the Midwest Athletic Conference, has 10 teams, 11 altogether, but just 10 in football. 8 of those 10 teams are in the playoffs. And we only play them in division state final games because where they're located.
Right.
And we've done pretty well. Mooney's had trouble with certain teams, but Ursuline played Coldwater, and they pretty much dominated. But Versailles is in that, New Bremen's in that, Minster's in that. We've all had local teams match up in the finals against those teams. But it's an amazing conference. Not only in football, they dominate almost in every sport.
They're exceptional.
Yeah, very
pound
exceptional.
For pound,
Yeah.
that might be the.
Now they're Division 5, 6, and 7.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
I'd like to see some of our 5, 6, and 7 teams, play them like a South Range or a Springfield or a Warren JFK, teams that could compete on that. But they're very similar to Kirtland, and Kirtland is
Yes.
from this part of the state is a very dominant team. So I'd like to see some of our good, really good 5, 6, and 7 teams match up against those teams. Maria Stein Marion Local's got 14 state championships, all since 2000. They're a dominant team, and they are once again a very dominant team this year.
Well, it's we're out of time, unfortunately, but it's great that you're back into digging in a little deeper again. You got the radio gig going.
It's fun.
And, that's you're one of a kind.
I see you keep looking at this book. You like it, don't you?
Well, it's organized.
Or you like duct tape.
Yeah, it's both. But thanks so much for coming in, and hopefully you will
Always a pleasure,
check
Jim.
back in with you a little bit down the road and see how things are going.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Yeah.
Champ Summers. We'll be right back with the one, the only Jere B. right after this.
Things change. One thing you can count on is that Armstrong always will be Armstrong. We've stood by our name from our humble beginnings in 1946 through the millions spent expanding fiber broadband in our communities. We've never changed our name to run from our reputation. We've established trust by simply putting our people, customers, and services first. It's a practice that holds true and will continue at Armstrong.
Welcome back. I'm Jim Evans, and I have the great privilege to be joined by the one and the only, as I said, Jere B. Man, it is great to see you. Thanks so much for coming in. We haven't had a chance to talk much, and although you've communicated a lot with a lot of things going on. Last time we had you here, you had your guys did some Christmas stuff for us. That was, I still peel back and check that out. That was a really great show of what you guys put together for us.
Absolutely.
So, what have you been up to? What's going on? That's why we want to have you in here.
Okay, where do you want
happening?
to start? First of all, I told my wife when you called that I was being called to the principal's office. So I feel like, I made sure I flossed and everything.
I have that in No, that's somebody else.
So whatever notes, But man, it's been fun. As you know, December 22nd, I left my day job, right? I was a care pastor at Victory Church, and I left to follow my dreams of being an entrepreneurial musician, and by God's grace, we've been making it happen.
Yeah.
So we've put together a rockin' podcast, we've put together 2 TV shows as a result, Director's Chair, Artist Impact.
Yep. Great stuff.
We've written a book, and we dialogue with musicians everywhere, so I'm really grateful.
The book. Actually, you mentioned earlier 2 books now.
Well, I'm working on the second.
You're working on the second one.
The first book has been published, and in fact, it's turned into a course that's being taught at iClassical Academy in Italy.
Wow.
So I'm really very grateful for that.
Well, tell us about it.
It's called
the title?
The Path of the Entree Musician, 9 keys to sharpen your mindset, discipline, and focus. And we found that to be very, very helpful for musicians because no matter what genre of music you play, no matter how old you are, none of those things matter. If your mindset, your discipline, and your focus is not sharpened, then pretty much you can be the most talented person in the world, but what are you going to do?
What are the 9 keys?
The 9 keys are to, first of all, get started.
Okay.
Secondly, to believe in yourself. To not stop, third key, because there's going to be a lot of things that happen, especially financially for musicians, and you're going to be tempted to stop. But don't stop. The 4th key is to trust. Trust is different than believing because you have to believe in yourself, but you have to trust others because you have to put a team together, okay? And then you're going to have to be generous. You're going to have to know how to forgive. You're going to have to show gratitude, and you're going to have to continue to learn. Because you never stop learning in this business. Because just when you think you got it, they're going to change something. Now we're dealing with AI. So artificial intelligence is heavy in the music industry. So, what do you do when you're 50 years old, 60 years old, and you're trying to rekindle your career, which we've worked with musicians like that. Our oldest musician we're working with is 75 years old, Jim, and gigging. He's from Edmonton, Canada, gigging every weekend now. And so we're learning how to put artificial intelligence into what we do to help further the goals of these careers of these entre musicians. So I'm having a lot of fun.
You're only 35, so what do you, no
I
concerns
wish.
for you there, but right around that age, right?
Somewhere close.
Quest change.
Right, interesting.
It's, AI, and we're hearing more and more about it. Sure. And singularities, down, getting closer.
It's not going to stop.
No.
We're here now.
So obviously, it sounds like it's a positive thing for you. Do you think that'll continue to be the case in the music industry?
I'm walking the
otherwise?
tightrope, bro. So as far as being a production tool, heavy duty, utilizing it for what is needed. If it's helping you to learn the industry better, to make better networking, we're talking with musicians in Italy, Sri Lanka, Germany. I was on a master class call in Amsterdam, Holland last night. So things like that is very good. However, for a robot to come out and sing the song to the audience or a hologram, we've gone too far. So utilize it, but don't let it take
Someone's
over.
going to try that. I mean, if they haven't
They already have.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
they already have.
But how would you integrate AI into what you're doing specifically? How does that work? How does it fall into place?
So again, my production tools are 80% AI when I'm recording or I'm mixing a record or I'm mastering a record, meaning that I'm taking it through its final processes. We'll run it through the computer and it will analyze how does this fit if it's being played next to Drake or if it's being played next to, as far as the sound, the sonic quality, because you want it to sound as best as it can. And so it's going to give you suggestions on how to do it. It will do it itself or it will say, well, here's what we recommend. And so you can either manually do it or hit the button and it does it itself. But again, as far as bringing in people and having their voices roboticized, well, I just made that word up, but the robotics of it,
Auto-tune.
we never want to do that, and some have done it, and you've heard that in many popular. Cher, I think, was the very first one in that big single that she had where her voice was very much auto-tuned and she sounded like a robot, but that was the gimmick.
I remember reading that, but
Yeah.
So what would be the difference? If you remember, Roger Troutman.
Yes.
Was that auto-tune or that was something?
That was a talk box. That was
box.
actual contraption that he built and put a tube in, and it had to go.
Okay.
It had to go in his mouth.
Okay.
So there was physical.
More bounce.
Yeah, more bounce to the ounce, right? But that wasn't AI. That was actually a machine,
Yeah.
and he plugged that machine into his keyboard and was able to play the notes he was singing.
Well, there were guitar players back in the maybe the late 60s or in the 70s where they hooked the same thing up to
same
their,
thing.
Peter Frampton
Same
did that a
thing.
lot.
Yeah.
Some other guys.
Frampton Comes Alive, great
Yes.
album.
Oh, geez, it is. Yeah. Without a doubt. But so it sounds like it's at least for your purposes, it's definitely more of a positive addition to your.
Jerry the musician, he doesn't like it.
Okay.
Jerry the recording engineer, the producer.
You're on board.
That's cool. So it can be kind of schizophrenic.
What are your thoughts on AI overall? In general?
I think it's a tool, and that's how I utilize it. See, I come up from the old school. I was a drummer. I remember when the first drum machine came out, right?
When was that?
Oh my gosh, I'm thinking 79.
Yeah,
I'm still
I
in
remember
school.
about that time.
Right? And so you hear the little robotic things that are
I didn't like
happening.
it.
I did not particularly like it, but I was afraid that I was going to be displaced because I was making my money playing drums on the weekend.
Yes.
So what I did was I bought a drum machine and I became a programmer.
Oh, okay.
You dig it? Mm-hmm. So now I can program drums, so no matter what the producer may have wanted, yeah, sure, I can do that part because that was the tilt. They wanted it to sound mechanical. Okay, now I can do that, and I can do it quickly. So I'm using artificial intelligence in that same light. How is this going to help me? Because I need to work, and because it's a tool that's going to help me work quicker, more efficient, and a lot of times gives me better qualities than the 18 hours of me sitting there trying to figure it out.
Well,
Boom, it's done.
there you go.
Make it happen.
I can see where you're coming from on that angle. So what's Sound Doctrine been up to?
Sound Doctrine has been heavy duty in the studio. No, we didn't. We chose not to go on stage, and we haven't been on stage. I want to say since we've been here. It's been a while, but
Why is that?
everybody's working. Well, we didn't want to do the video things that were happening when we had the COVID shutdown, right? So
Okay.
everybody was doing the YouTube videos from their living rooms or garage.
Yeah.
That just didn't feel normal to us. And we have talented musicians where everybody's being hired to do everything in this studio or the other. So whether it's here in Youngstown or Cleveland or Pittsburgh or Akron or wherever it's happening, nobody really lost work. So production went to the front burner and performance kind of took a back seat. And the older I get, being a drummer, and the things that I can do, because I work out of 2 studios and there's drums in both of those places, that's easier for me than dragging them through a 65 city tour.
Yeah,
You know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we're thinking in 25, we want to step out again, but we've released 5 singles this year
Yeah,
alone. We have
yeah.
another one coming out on this Friday. Of course, I don't know when this episode will air, but Friday, November 1st, we have a new one coming out. We just did a remix with Bob Baldwin. That's going to come out in December. So we've been busy. It's just hasn't been performing.
You know what? And I thought when I get a chance to talk to you, it sounded, I had it off to the side in the room, and I thought I was listening to the Crusaders.
Yeah.
Stix Hooper,
Yeah.
Wilton Felder,
Joe
Joe Sample,
Sample.
Larry Carlton,
That's right.
and Pops Well.
That's
and I had several of their albums, and you guys, I was like, this is what I'm listening to.
Well,
It was terrific.
those are our heroes, man. Those are, thank you for the kind words, but,
no,
you
seriously.
feel like, oh my God, when you talk about Joe Sample.
I was
But-
into them big.
Absolutely, but Cliff Barnes, Jim Kokenauer, Keith McKelly on sax, also Michael Austin, Mitch Lawrence on sax, depending on who was available, Paul Dowds on guitar, Phil Moore on bass, and some little ball brown guy on drums, And we just tried to make it happen, but yeah, that
keep it
was
together.
magical.
And again, plans to be out live coming.
25, we're looking
25,
at it, yeah. I turn 60 next year in 25, so
Come on.
we're thinking, yeah, we might as well.
60 going on 30.
On 35.
30, 35. That's right. You're paying attention now.
Yeah.
How, we're almost out of time, unfortunately, but how difficult is it in the music business for people, maybe coming up or just,
It's hard.
hanging around?
It's difficult, but you have to be intentional about it, and you have to continue to create opportunities for yourself, or you get lost. That's it. It's a difficult business to be in, but I left my day job to do this, and so I was just like tenacious, and every morning I
Yeah.
get up with that same fire,
And
make
regrets?
it happen.
No regrets.
Zero.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Zero
Yeah.
regrets, man. We get one chance at this, right? And no regrets, no sitting in the rocking chair when I'm 90 years old going, I should have quit.
You can still be playing from the rocking chair.
Exactly, no.
Hitting the bass pedal?
I saw a video of a 104-year-old drummer just the other night
Hey.
playing with his son, playing his drums. Oh, God bless him.
And again, your new book, quickly, that you're working on.
Well, the new book is called
about
What About Popcorn? And I don't know if I have time to tell the story, but
As quick as you can.
It's basically about focus. It's about having a list of things that people might offer you, and you're going, well, that doesn't work for me. What about this?
But it has to do with
So it has to do with my youngest daughter, Ayana, who was 2 years old, who was eating all kinds of snacks. And I said, okay, Ayana, no more. I named off a list of like 20 things. And she said, but what about popcorn? I had to make her popcorn. So there you go. She taught me.
She's
so
playing you.
She did.
For
Totally.
sure. Well, unfortunately, we are out of time, but
I
thank you so
appreciate
much for your time and coming in. It's great to see you, and let's do it again down the road here soon.
Whenever you want to call.
All right, buddy. Okay, Jere B. We'll be back to wrap it up right after this.
Supercharge your internet. Only Zoom Extreme from Armstrong combines unlimited data with whole home Wi-Fi at the fastest speeds possible. Zoom Extreme from Armstrong.
Well, that's going to do it for our show. Thanks so much to Champs Summers, a.k.a. Tony Bebo, and to the great Jere B, and always to Greg Roten and all of you. Check us out as you can right here on Armstrong as well as YouTube. You should. I'm Jim Evans. We'll catch you next time right here. Should I leave?